Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's talk about neighbors with the audacity of 1,000 suns. Our OP was doing the nice thing, watching over their ultra-clean freak neighbor's house while they were on vacation. When they returned, instead of a thank you, they threw a tantrum about their grass not being mowed. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Neighbor asked us to watch their house, then got mad we didn't mow their lawn too. Context. I've lived next to these neighbors for years, and we've never really had issues besides a few times they've parked in our driveway. We live on opposite sides of an entire street, so it was completely uncalled for. These are ultra-clean freaks, though. I've seen him on multiple occasions scrubbing individual rocks of his driveway with a toothbrush, pressure wash his outdoor trash bin, trim bushes with scissors, etc., like super weird people. Last week, they decided to go on a vacation and called us to let us know and asked to watch over their house. We agreed. We didn't see anything unusual and even made sure their packages were out of the rain. They have 4 outdoor cameras, so it's not like they couldn't see what was up anyways. Over the past week, we've had a lot of rain where we're located, so the grass grew a lot. They mowed the day they left, and it grew to about 5 inches. Anyway, they got home yesterday and called us to let us know. We thought nothing of it and asked how their trip was. We were friendly and chatted for a while about their vacation, yada yada yada. Then they say, "Would have been nice if we came home to a nice yard, but I see you didn't care to do anything nice for us." Excuse me? There were branches in their yard, which we gladly moved when we moved the ones that fell in ours, but mowing your grass? We told them it wasn't really a priority for us as we work full-time. They're retired, and it's not even our house. It's important to mention our property line doesn't cross, so we literally have a road between our houses. So it's not like it's just running the mower over ours and just connecting theirs. We would actually have to walk the mower across the street and mow it. They've mowed for us once when we were sick. Other times they've literally called the city on us to get fined for having too long of grass, yet they want us to mow theirs, right? I would have simply replied, that wasn't the arrangement we discussed. As discussed, we kept an eye out on your property and moved all parcels to a secure area for you. Didn't allow the mail to build up in your letterbox, put your bins out for collection and brought them in again. But we can't read minds, and had you asked us to mow your lawn, I would have drawn the line at that, as we work all week and didn't see it as overgrown anyway. And our second story. You don't want me to talk to you? Okay. This happened a few years ago. I just started teaching after finishing graduate school, and one of the co-chairs for my department, I'm a high school science teacher, was on a major power trip, and because I was the new guy, I guess she decided I'd be an easy target. The thing that finally pushed me over the edge was when she told me that under no circumstances was I allowed to talk to any teacher in the building unless they taught the same subject I did. As someone who was just starting out and needed all the help I could get, this seemed like a problem, but actually turned out to be one of the best things that happened while I was working there. Now, not only was her order totally unenforceable, it was also a major breach of district and school policy. And for any of you who've worked in education, you understand how a school district tends to react to things like that, especially when it also involves the harassment of an employee. But rather than report it immediately to my AP, assistant principal, I decided to bid my time and use my department chair's own words to destroy her. And so begins my evil plan. As a beginning teacher, I was required to submit weekly lesson plans to my AP and the department chair. At the beginning of the year, I'd emailed my AP to ask him if I needed both co-chairs to sign off on the plans. Since we all had different schedules, I was worried I wouldn't get them back in time to make changes if they were needed. He wrote back saying that as long as he and at least one of the chairs signed off, there were no problems. With the email in hand, I had everything I needed. I continued submitting my lesson plans to the AP and the other department chair as I had been, but took the other's name off the emails. My lessons continued getting approved and everything was fine for a month or two. Then I get a call to report to the AP's office because he needs to speak with me. I walk in and there she is, standing next to his desk with this smug, crap-eating smirk on her face. Before the AP, who we both report to, can say anything, she starts demanding to know why I haven't been submitting my lesson plans and insists that the AP write me up and take disciplinary action immediately for my failure to follow policy. He tells her that I have been submitting all my lesson plans on time and pulls them up on his computer to show her the email chain between us. She turns to me, her face turning redder and redder. I thought that vein bulging in her forehead was going to burst. "Then I demand you write him up for not communicating his lessons with me as per policy. I'm the department chair." That's when I made my move. As innocently as can be, I say to the AP, "But I don't understand the problem. I did exactly what she told me to." She looked like she was about to have a stroke. In her best, "I want to see your manager" voice, she says, "And when exactly did I tell you not to send your lessons to me?" Me, still ignoring her and as calm and respectful as can be, "Well, I was told I was only allowed to speak to teachers that teach the same subject I do. I teach biology, and so does the department chair I've been submitting lesson plans to. My other department chair," I gestured at her, still not looking at her, "teaches earth science, which isn't my subject, so it was my understanding that I wasn't supposed to talk to her." For a full 10 seconds, you could have heard a pin drop in that room. Both of their jaws dropped. The AP was the first to recover. He turned to her and asked, "Sounds to me like he followed your instructions to the letter. Instructions that you and I are going to have a serious talk about." She goes white, realizing how much trouble she's in. At this point, both myself and the AP are trying desperately not to start laughing. She rounds on me. Her, "Why, you little smart butt." Me, cutting her off. "I'm sorry, but I'm not supposed to talk to you." She screams like a banshee and storms out of the office. My AP's laughing so hard he can barely breathe. And I go and have my lunch. But did she get her wish? There was disciplinary action taken after the harassment, the violation of policy, and storming out of the office, which caused a scene in front of several parents and students. She was removed as department chair. She lost her authority and the extra pay that came with it. I was brought homemade muffins and thank you card from the rest of the department for getting us all out from under that witch. And you know, I never did bother to ask if I was allowed to talk to her after that. Keeping your cool and staying professional through the whole ordeal is no small feat when you're dealing with someone like her. It's like you kept your composure and executed a perfectly laid out plan, which just makes it even sweeter when you expose their nonsense. And the fact that the AP couldn't even keep a straight face? That's gold. You played this game with grace, and in the end, it really paid off. Well done. And our last story. HOA tried to force me to repaint my garage. I live in a subdivision of about 60 houses with an HOA that's managed by elected neighbors, no property management company, just a handful of people who like to pretend they have unchecked power over the rest of us. Recently, they sent me a letter demanding I repaint my garage because the paint was starting to fade. The letter gave me 30 days to comply or face a $100 a month fine or legal action. They cited the owner's responsibility for maintenance of lot/house covenant, which is basically a generic all-encompassing rule about upkeep and maintenance. It mentions that homeowners are responsible for maintaining their homes, but says absolutely nothing about paint colors, fading paint, or requiring HOA approval for colors. Now, my house is mostly brick, and the only painted areas are the trim, shutters, and the garage area above the door. The old color was a darker brownish gray, but I decided to go with a light beige, still neutral, clean, and within reason for a suburban neighborhood. Apparently, this was completely unacceptable to the HOA board. A week after I finished painting, I got another letter. The HOA was now threatening legal action again unless I repainted my garage to match the trim exactly. I asked them to show me where in the covenants it states that all colors must match or be pre-approved, and of course they couldn't. Instead, they started talking about preserving the French country aesthetic of the neighborhood. French country? First of all, nowhere in the HOA covenants is this style mentioned. Second, a light beige garage somehow ruins this mysterious aesthetic. They refused to back down and insisted that either I repaint the garage to match the trim or lawyer up. At this point, I was beyond annoyed, so I walked around the neighborhood to take pictures. I counted at least 15% of houses where the garage door color did not match the trim. Guess whose house had one of the biggest mismatches? Yep, one of the HOA directors. Their garage was several shades lighter than the trim, yet here I was being singled out over a minor change in a completely neutral color. I presented my findings to the HOA, showing them that many homes in the neighborhood don't have garage doors that match their trim. There's no covenant requiring an exact match. Even their own board members have garages that don't match. Their response? That's open to legal interpretation. At this point, I wasn't backing down. Since they threatened legal action, I told them I was ready to fight it. I got a lawyer to send them a formal request for a written explanation of exactly which covenants I was supposedly violating, a clear definition of the French country theme and where that's stated in our HOA agreements, a list of every homeowner who's been required to repaint their garage to match the trim, because if they were selectively enforcing this rule against me, that's discrimination. HOA immediately backs down. Less than a week after my lawyer's letter, the HOA went radio silent. No more letters, no more threats of fines. I even got a casual email saying, "We have decided not to pursue this issue further at this time." Translation? They knew they didn't have a legal leg to stand on. But that's not even the best part. A few days later, I found out that 2 other neighbors had filed complaints against the HOA for similar nonsense. One involved a woman who was being told to repaint her fence despite it not violating any rules, and another involved a guy who was getting fined for his unapproved garden plants, which were native plants the city encouraged people to use. Long story short, the HOA was starting to get heat for selective enforcement and overstepping their authority. Not only did I keep my beige garage, but a couple of the board members quietly stepped down a few months later. I still live in the neighborhood, and I still hate the HOA, but at least I know that the next time they try to pull this kind of power trip, they'll think twice before messing with me. What makes this even sweeter is the ripple effect. By standing your ground, you pave the way for your neighbors to do the same. Their selective enforcement backfired spectacularly when others started filing complaints too. The fact that 2 board members quietly stepped down, perfect. They probably realized their power trip wasn't worth the legal heat. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.